5 years.
Well, you got the right, you didn't have the right thing.
Oh, he didn't buy the right thing.
I didn't get the right thing, it's correct. Not like you like these.
Yeah, I bought it back. So we got
Okay. I said to him, we miss you at the selectmen's meeting, Bruce. He hasn't been. I saw him at the funeral on Friday, and I said, you haven't been. He says, well, he said, you gotta bring up something that's more controversial.
Oh, this is.
you live.
No. Well, maybe because George is getting
This
sworn.
is this for later.
Oh my
You
God.
probably ought to say that, huh? Talk to the.
You know, all that's-
Did they win yesterday? Was it Friday?
25-24. They had the whole game. Rangers was on inside
Oh, Amesbury, huh?
inside of a minute.
What do you think of the library? They want-
Oh, I think that's a great idea.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, out of impact fees,
Doesn't cost us anything.
zero.
Hey, I don't wanna do anything. I'm a candy lover. What do we do?
I don't want anybody to think I have the candy crazy. Make it look like.
Are you coaching again now?
I was, but I'm not in that.
Moment.
I'm not doing anything.
You know each other?
Well, geez, I haven't seen her for 2 weeks. When's next
2
door?
weeks. I know.
She lives next door. I never see her.
Come to the courthouse. Doing something right.
Somebody got started and made something.
And nobody went to the front of them because then you look like you're a candy person.
Just eat them all. Maybe I should.
Well, that too, but no, mostly you don't look like you're craving candy, but we're trying to
Richie
do it.
here is coming tonight.
He's here.
Oh, is he?
He's on the hallway. Yeah.
Is he here?
He's looking to buy some property, so he's checking it.
Oh, yeah.
Are you all appointed or are you elected?
Elected.
Because I want to know who I'm going to vote for when I move up there.
Okay.
Well, you
Vote
should,
for me.
I'll do everything you need.
Do you have any?
I'm easy to bribe.
Are you particular about people that move in?
No, if you're from Massachusetts especially, we love to have it.
You love them asphalt.
Whoa, God, we do. We love to bring them up here.
Oh,
Yeah. All they do is screw the works up when they bring them up.
Well, they want to change this community to what they came from, and I keep saying to them, why do you want to do that? Didn't you want to get away from that? Yeah, well, then why do you want to do it up here?
Exactly.
Does that mean I need to move too?
That's up to you, sir.
So is this cost of living thing, is that,
I have the prepared it, yeah.
we got one here, is that, so it looks, does that look like it's gonna be between 1.6 and 1.8?
1.8, yeah.
So that would be a talking point for us tonight.
Yeah, you on the high side.
You have no idea.
What's that 2
How
tenths
much I
really?
get
by
pounded
the
at
time you
home.
get that, then the government takes it, so what good is it?
Right? I mean, by the time you, I mean, the 20 grand that you're gonna give to everybody and all your employees, that's 4 cents. It's 4 cents in your tax dollar. Out of the $25 that you pay, it's 4 cents
So when they start thinking,
to keep everybody happy and working hard.
So you have no idea, again,
I'm just
how much
expressing my
I'm
opinion.
getting pounded at home.
Well, that's your personal problem.
Yeah.
Right.
There's only 4 guys we're talking about.
Are you ready?
Okay, I was thinking, I lost my head for a second.
5:59.
And by the way, I kept reminding everyone, especially the chief, there will be no increases for next year, so. I feel like I got a smart chair.
Oh, you might just have to pump it up. It might have sunk. Might have sunk some plastic.
All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. That's for Bob. Amen for Bob. So you guys want me to read?
Sure.
Okay. simulate Bob's.
Oh,
Can you handle those
You know when
checks?
you're
Ray?
ready.
Go.
oh.
Christine Belanger, 70437. Kristen Patch, 45491.
For a total of 1159.28.
That was quick.
This one won't be so.
I'll be trying to be quick though. That's a little bit longer.
Pay attention.
All right, you ready? George Abel, 1853-28. Eleanor Cherry, 10-42-32. Andrea Bickham, 575-71. Joe Bird, 892-55. Gloria Buendia, 475-41. Karen Clement, 1035-21. Alyssa Sineski, 158-70. Michael Dane, 663-51. Kiki Donis Wall, 163-46. Pamela Frederick, 57-26. Robert Gagnon, 902-69. Ken Gottlieb, 1280-96. Andrew Bray, 777-75. Mary Lons Hall, 92-35. Kip Kaiser, 756-19. Joyce Kegel, 893-29. Kevin Nealon, 1028-65. Stephanie Lozak-Coteau, 380-67. Heather Lindsay, 591-14. Colin Crick-Marquis, 2808. Francis McGinnis, 1135-09. Rachel Mulberry, 132-98. Julissa Polanco, 941-51. Wayne Robinson, 793-75. Sean Seeley, 293-77. Jeremy Smith, 432-56. Katerina Tana, 376-71. Joshua Turner, 302-96. You're right. Dan Wicks, 113-66-10. Janice Weir, 724-99. Jeremy Worcester, 877-55. Daphne Wass, 659-75.
For a total of $21,678.40.
Combined total of $22,837.68. Yeah, 37 hours, 37.25 hours of overtime in the PD, none in the fire department, none in the highway.
You want that back? I just gotta walk it over to you. And here we go, last batch. Oh, maybe. Ready? Airgas USA, 289.83. Car parts of Epping, 34.80. Chappelle Tractor, $1.48. C&M Cleaning, 1336.67. Hartman Oil Propane, 833.08. Health Trust, 12.50. Joyce Kegel, 29.82. Neo Funds by Neo Post, 25.06. Neptune Uniforms, 539.64. New Hampshire Fish and Game, 836. And New Hampshire Retirement System, 24.268.06. Treasurer, State of New Hampshire, 257. Bernard Waste, 16,258.15. Ramon Networks, 25,844 even. Rockingham County Registry, 455. Rome Construction, 60.
Total of
Close.
Thank you, Andy.
How are you feeling?
Got 4 rec checks.
I'll bring these over to you.
Thanks, Bill.
Chance to stretch my legs.
You need to stretch them more later. About 9:30.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. So yet another quiet week, no real excitement here at all. I did move $50,000 essentially to cover the payables. Still have 3.3 million in reserve.
Thanks, John.
Good job, thank you.
Good evening, sir. Yep.
That's all right, they don't bother me. Good evening, all.
Sir?
We'll start off with 313 Route 125. This is Concord Self-Defense. This is a sign permit, and I'll let you sign it. I've got a little more calculation to do before I release it, however.
Does that include the one on the wall and then the one in the front?
The one on the front, yes, replacing same that's
Yeah.
there. The one on the wall, it's a 15-foot circle, and I've got to figure exactly how much, who's got what on the building and the frontage, so. We'll get it to that point, and if it doesn't pass, it'll go away. But this way it won't hold it
There's a
up.
picture in there.
I saw it driving by, so.
Next is 313, Route 125. And this one is for William Dunkerley, Dunk's Mushrooms, and this is an electric permit. Next is 31 Long Meadow. Uh-oh. Don't have the owner's name on this one, I cannot remember either. This is in addition to, it's a porch that's being put on, and this is the lighting. Next we have 102 Route 125. Oh, yes, no. No, 313 Route 125, sorry. And this one is Ray Durbin, and this is for an egress. Then we have 13 Three Ponds Drive, and this one is Three Ponds LLC. And this is finished wiring for a clubhouse.
That's just to come out of the building.
Correct. Presently, there's a stairway that goes from the basement, which houses two businesses, and it comes out onto the second floor, which is another rented space. So the idea would be to replace the stairway with opening that went directly out of the basement in the same location.
Then they're not interfering with each other. Once again, I get to stretch my legs, walk over here, bring this back into here. You're gonna put a
Thank you,
pulley
Bill.
system in eventually.
Yeah, little slide.
I'm working on it. Things move slowly, but they are good when they're done. That it?
Did the board have anything else for me?
Any updates or anything that's pending, or we all good?
I think we're all good. I think we're in pretty good shape. I'll give you another briefing next week. Anything that I've forgotten that was on the agenda? No?
I still need to go check those lights, on South Road and 125. I'll do that this week and I'll let you know. I don't know that they've moved anything really.
Okay.
I'll let you know. If that's a problem, I'll let you know.
And on my way out, just a quick update. We have some lights out in the parking lot. They're probably sensors, so we started the process today and hope to clean it up within a day or so. Thank you.
infectious. Chief, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody here for our promotional ceremony for Corporal George Abel. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce his special guest of honor. First of all, his mom, Karen Abel. You want to stand up? Proud mama.
Very proud, thank you.
And then George's girlfriend, Catherine Callahan, is also a police officer for Durham PD. And Pops, David Drone, has been very influential in Corporal Abel's life. Thank you for coming. Jared Arsenal, who used to be with us and is now with Newington PD, a good friend of George's, and also Jeremy. Where is Jeremy? Wister over here, one of our officers here at the PD. So those are our special guests of honor here, as well as, I know there's some friends and Captain Roy, retired Captain Roy, is also in attendance here. Thank you. And I know he's got some other friends in the audience here.
Chief.
Anybody else that wanna?
Wayne.
Wayne, Chief Robinson. So, just a little on Corporal George Abel. Why don't you stand up, George? Come on up here. Stand in front as I read this. Corporal Abel grew up in Ipswich, Massachusetts. He graduated from Ipswich High School in 2003 with honors. While in Ipswich, he grew up playing sports his whole life. In high school, he was a three-sport athlete: track, lacrosse, and football. In football, he was a two-year captain, junior and senior year. In his junior and senior year, he was named Defense of the Player of the Year for his senior year and got to participate in the All-Star Agnes football game. He went on to attend Mount Ida College, where he played football and was a two-year captain for them, and also a preseason All-American linebacker his senior year. He graduated with a degree in sports management and health and wellness. Having an interest in law enforcement, he attended and graduated from the Massachusetts Part-Time Police Academy in 2012. The other thing that you may not know is Corporal Abel actually funded this academy on his own. So that tells you the desire to go into this profession. He was hired full-time with Brentwood Police Department in 2014, and he graduated with the 164th class of the New Hampshire Police Standards and Training Academy. In 2016, he was nominated and received a life-saving award, followed by an award for above and beyond the call of duty. In this particular life-saving award that he received, he was called to a male subject who's in their 40s, trapped in a garage in an attempt to commit suicide by asphyxiation. Corporal Abel broke in through the window and retrieved the subject, who was unconscious at the time, and was metaflighted to Exeter and then eventually to Boston, where he survived. And thus he received the life-saving award. In 2017, he graduated from the Boston Canine Police Academy with his Canine DAX. Canine DAX is a dual-purpose patrol and narcotics canine. And during our time serving the town of Brentwood and other communities, they've had numerous finds of criminals who have fled on foot and numerous finds of narcotics. I can also tell you, recently, last spring, we had a female shoplifter that Epping was in pursuit of. There was a brief pursuit on our part, ended up being terminated, continued on into Kingston. The subject was located. She attempted to flee and went into the woods, and we were trying to find her for a good period of time. Canine Officer Abel was dispatched, and after about 45 minutes to an hour, with the assistance of Officer Wister, we were able to locate the female subject and take her into charged with multiple counts of PD as well as in the winter, there was an intoxicated subject from a motor vehicle accident who fled the scene, and we were attempting to locate that individual. Corporal Abel with DAX was dispatched out to the scene and located the male subject who was passed out. No question, due to the weather conditions, there was a good possibility that that subject may have not have made it, if not for the finding of this individual by Corporal Abel and his canine DAX. And then most recently, Northampton There was a pursuit that was ensued from an individual wanted by state police and FBI, a major drug investigation. And there was a pursuit that went up 95, landed in Northampton, subject fled on foot, and state police were on scene in Northampton. Officer Abel was dispatched, Corporal Abel was dispatched with canine DAX, and there were also multiple canine teams on scene searching for the subject, and the subject was apprehended by Corporal Abel and DAX. And as I mentioned, numerous finds of narcotics. In the winter of 2018, he was sworn in as Rockingham County Sheriff Deputy and got a spot on the Drug Task Force team and has actually been working very, very diligently with them. Bless you.
Sorry, thank you.
Recently, and I made note of this, Officer Worcester actually made an arrest of an individual here in town. Great police work. Can't say enough about it. And as a result of that, we were able to flip this individual, as we call it, and the individual cooperated and actually did some major high-level drug investigations. And long story short, as a result of those investigations, we seized through the Rockingham County Drug Task Force.
Just short of 800 grams of fentanyl.
Which is just under a kilogram of fentanyl. So, substantial drug case. He is also the department's PT instructor, defensive tactics instructor, and ground fighting instructor. And I can tell you countless times that the New Hampshire Police Standards and Training Academy call me and they want to utilize his services on a regular basis, which I'm happy to oblige. But when I lose Corporal Abel and the likes of my officers elsewhere, it leaves us shorthanded, but we're happy to accommodate. So that's Corporal Abel. He's worked very hard. He's been with the PD for 7 years? 6 years. And it's been a transition and a process, and as we've been growing through this process, and Corporal Abel has done an outstanding job with rising to the occasion, and I'm fully confident that he's up to the task, and as he knows, as of today,
Long day.
we're actually pretty buried right now with a number of cases, and we're still looking for a detective and investigator. But it's been a great opportunity for the staff that we have right now to be working some of these investigations, and we're doing the best that we can. So that's Corporal Abel, and we're very happy that he's now on board as a corporal. So at this time, I'm going to have his proud mama come up and pin him.
You can do it.
I think.
Yeah.
We gotta get some new corporal badges, I think. Oh, here we go.
Did you tell George's mother how good he looked in his suit the other day?
I did not.
I explained it to her. It's all good.
That suit he just got to wear to his interview?
Oh, it was very good, yeah.
I'm so glad. Thank you.
You can do it.
I'm not gonna make it, I promise. Give me a minute.
There you go.
Lately.
Hey, looks good.
Thank you.
Over the years, and very supportive, and we're thankful that their service and their support here today.
Chief, give me a hug.
Yes. Chief Robinson, by all means, please come up.
Very good job, and you learned it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, feels like you give me kisses.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Ron.
That's good, so I can take snippets for the video.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow, somebody.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
celebrate.
Oh, yeah.
Because tomorrow's gonna be a different day.
I know, it's been a long one.
I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight for Corporal Abel's promotion ceremony. And like I said, I'm just gonna end on this note that we're very excited and I'm proud of his accomplishments and achievements and looking forward to what the future holds.
Thanks, Chief.
You leaving?
Yes. It's time for dinner.
Yeah,
What?
I just have to push my
Chief,
chair.
will you
You
give
were
us a quick,
talking,
will you give us a quick
if
update
we
on?
get rid of him, we go, right?
They're asking.
Oh, yeah.
Take care.
yeah. Be very proud.
I'm very proud, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Oh, nice meeting you too. Great, Sonny got there. I'll do my best, thank you. Nice meeting you too. 'cause I'm,
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all. I'll be looking for a house.
Okay.
We got a couple.
We have a
We got a
couple.
couple.
All right, so today's event, it's been a crazy 2 days. We are straight out with investigations. We're muddling through how we're gonna dole them out and get them done. But today we had a call of a burglary in progress over at U-Haul Storage on Middle Road. And when we got there, we got some surveillance footage. It took us a little while, but we were able to get the footage, and we have a suspect that we're trying to identify. There was no weapon shown, but based on the investigation, this individual knew that there'd be a larger amount of cash in the registry than normal, in the register than normal, so we have a couple of leads that we're following up on. The Rockingham County Sheriff's Department was wonderful with their assistance, New Hampshire State Police, wonderful with their assistance. They got right on scene, asked me whatever I needed, and they had their helicopter in the area. And we were assisted with several other canine units. I called Corporal Abel out to assist with the canine, because it was just me. So called him out, thank goodness he was there. And we did a great job with it. And state police were able to process the scene for us, and hopefully that'll lead us to something. Talked to WMUR to get the information out there. I know it played, I didn't see it.
It
And,
was great, I saw it.
so we're I mean, it's difficult because it's unfolding and we're trying to deal with it. You know, somewhere in the process, Christine had called me, where's Christine? And she was like, you know, and I get it, you know, people are calling, they're, you know,
Oh, yeah.
a helicopter. I'm like, just put something out on our Facebook page saying, you know, there's no need to be alarmed. What we have, you know, we have it under control. We're trying to find the suspect right now, but there's really no cause for alarm other than what we had, which was the burglary. And as I said, there was no force, no threat, no firearm or weapon involved, just someone that knew there'd be some cash in that registry, in that register. So I think we have everything locked down, and we'll do the best job that we can to try to identify him.
Good luck.
Yeah, it was
Thank
hard to look
Thanks, Chief.
at his face.
Thank you.
Couldn't see his face. Gotta turn that sign around.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, we're not. We're open.
We'll probably leave one door open, one door closed.
Yeah, I'll cut that noise a little. Good suggestion.
Take a motion on last week's minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, what about,
Non-public,
there was non-public ones too.
do the same. Motion on the non-public.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget committee?
Can I make a suggestion that we get the library first?
Well, the library's not on the,
Not on the agenda.
not on the agenda, so.
Birds on the agenda.
They came in
We'll do
last
that.
night, or yesterday afternoon.
I tried.
Do cheaper. I think budget's gonna be longer and do cheaper, and I'd like to make a motion that we not do anything on that suggestion from staff
On
until
what?
we have a full board.
Is-
Chief Bird's here.
Come on up, chief.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you guys doing? Well, you guys asked me at the last meeting, to come up with some figures of putting another full-time person on and what it would cover. Basically, to finish up the year, if I started them in November, it would be about $13,000 to finish it up. I'm looking at about a $70,000 increase for next year's budget, but that comes with a caveat that we go to 12-hour days, 7 days a week. That would be 2 full-time people, plus myself, and then 4 per diems. 44, or about 45,000 of it is actually what it would cost to cover the extra hours. So, and we went with a full benefits package for the full-time guy, which came to about 15. And then there was another 10 in there to supplement the per diems in and out to make the rotations work, so.
So we're talking about full coverage, basically.
Well, we're 12 hours a day, 6 in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, and then we would go back to the call department. The majority of the calls are falling between then. The weekends have been absolutely atrocious trying to cover them because of summer and so forth and so on. I'm trying to give the town the best bang for the buck, and
So
this
this
is
would
what
be
I.
6 new positions,
No.
or this would be just 2?
No,
full
I've got-
coverage?
you've
You
given
got-
me-
You got part, you got.
I get approval for 4, I've got 3 per diems at the moment, I'd have to pick the
so
4th
you
one
pick
up,
one more,
right, to make that work, and
then
then I
2
would,
more full-time.
no, 1 more full-time.
One more full-time.
Right, so there would be 2 full-time guys and myself, and do it that way. So to pick up the other one, like I said,
So we're adding just 2 people.
you're adding 2 people,
Well,
But the
yes and no.
4 per diem positions
The
are
per di-
already in the budget.
Right.
Yeah, they're in the budget, the 4 per diem positions are.
And
And
2
this is for
full-timers are
next
already in
year
the
anyways,
budget.
right?
Well, I'd like to finish up the last 2 months here if I can get it and get it
Do you
started.
have somebody in mind?
No, it just, the sooner I get the process started, the better it is, and the sooner I can start filling these.
And that $13,000 increase is already
It's
built
in the
into
budget. It's in the budget,
it would be next year would be a $70,000.
yeah. But like I said, 45 of it, or almost 45 of it, is just to make up the difference in the hours. We're working an 8.5 on the weekdays now, and if we can cover the weekends, it's a 10-hour shift.
But with the increases over at Three Ponds, I think it's time we,
That might be right, but I still think we should wait till everybody's here on the board.
I have no problem with that. Can you just send all that to Karen, she can disseminate it to us, and
Absolutely,
We can maybe take a vote on it next week. probably.
that's fine,
I don't think we need you here for that, cause I think that'll answer all our questions.
okay,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
I can do that, not a problem.
And if anybody doesn't remember, and for YouTube worlds, plug your ceremony tomorrow. What time?
Yes, we're doing a 9/11 ceremony tomorrow. It will be, we'd like to have everybody there about 9:45. It kicks off at just about 5 minutes to 10. It's a short ceremony, but I think it's a great thing to continue to honor those that have went through that sacrifice. So everybody is welcome to come over. Like I said, about 9:45 tomorrow morning.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Thank you for doing that. I tried to get them to close the courthouse so I could go, but they won't do it.
And I don't have any pull.
That's a break for us.
Yes,
You've been there, what, 2 weeks, and they won't do that for
I
you?
won't close it down, I tried.
Okay,
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks,
thank you very much.
Yep.
You guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
Do you guys want the library next, or do you want budget committee?
Yes, the library.
Is the library on the, library's on the?
They're not on the agenda, but basically what they had in the mail, I think is a great idea and we should react to it.
You guys good with the library? Library, you're
Yeah,
not.
we can do that.
Come on down.
That's right.
All right, I already
You're
read
okay
it.
with that?
I read it online.
Oh, okay.
Just pick a seat, Jim,
Yeah,
anywhere you
There's
like.
3 of them, right there.
You can sit next to me if you want.
Here, I'll sit over here.
Bye-bye.
I'll sit next to Karen.
Have you guys got paper? Yeah, you do.
Yeah, we got it.
We have it.
Yeah.
In fact, this side of the table is enamored with your idea. We like it.
It's
fine,
fine.
then just,
We have a quorum on this side, no problem.
just tell us to go. And
Go.
we'll
So, for everybody else that doesn't know what you want, can you explain it to the,
Everybody.
Does everybody know our library director, Janice Weir?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Most of all of
she
you
doesn't
come
bring
into
us,
the
she doesn't bring
library.
us brownies, but.
Oh,
I know.
I'll change that.
So this will go out over the airways and now everybody will know.
I
who
know,
you
I
are,
know, I
so
have
that's
to make brownies, okay.
9:24.
Exactly.
No pressure.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
In essence, what we're trying to do here is to make the library efficient enough so that it can handle the traffic that we have right now, and which is, you know, a quantum leap over what we've had in the past. And we have, I can only say that, and I don't mean to be flip about this, but if you come into the room, which is basically was designed to take care of Marilyn Moorhead, you would almost say, okay, the good parallel here on a busy day is that that office will look like one of these cars in a circus, you know? And because there used to be for one person, and now, how many people?
There's three of us in that office regularly, and then, at any given time, there's usually 4 or 5 of us trying to work in that office.
And then I come in as treasurer, and they all look and say,
Really?
"You gotta be kidding." And so and then we basically get to a point where traffic can be so great that it causes substantial delays at the circulation desk. It's not all the time. You can drive by the library on sometimes, and you'll see 2 cars there, right? And, but more and more, I think, that we have to plan for taking care of the peak, and without having any new people, and without having any basic change in the footprint itself. And so,
Can I give an example? Yesterday, we were open from 2 to 7. We had 130 people in our doors.
So where you're planning to put the new workstation is over by the doors to go downstairs, right?
close to, yes.
Yes.
And would that substantially change anything in that area in terms of books and, really not?
That's our
Would
new
not.
book section and our graphic novels, so we just need to find a new place for those.
Do you
but
have something in mind?
We
to
do.
use
Oh,
that?
Yeah.
And the cost of all this is essentially zero for us, because it's all coming out of what you're suggesting is impact fees, right?
Correct.
If we understand what impact fees are all about,
Well,
they are
what-
directed
so-
almost
So
at
let me, I'll ask the question because I'm not sure, I wanna just be clear. My understanding is that impact fees can be used if there's an anticipated increase in need for capacity, which is what you're saying to us, is that you've had a great increase in traffic at the library, and you see this as a need because to address that increase in going forward, right?
exactly,
So that's what that's what you can use the
Yeah.
impact fees for.
exactly.
So you don't use it to-
I'd like to make the motion that we accept the workstation proposal by the library staff using impact fees.
Can you just read the number
Yeah.
that they're looking for?
Bill?
Here, your proposal, you read it, and I'll second it for you if you'd like, or maybe Phyllis can.
The library is looking for a release of $27,000 in impact fees. Total, $16,684 for lighting, $8,100 for workstation, and provisions for contingencies of just over 10%, totaling no more than $27,000. That's my motion.
I'll second.
And that's the amount of capital impact fees we have currently, right? That's the.
Correct.
that's
There's
the
29 in
It's
there
a
now.
little
Correct.
less than
Okay,
that,
so there'll still be some left over, not to exceed 27,000, and that covers the need for the increased capacity of
Mr.
traffic.
Chairman?
I have a motion and a second, any discussion further?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
very
Thank
much,
you.
folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for taking us early.
Yeah,
Well, you could have waited until 9 o'clock.
Oh, we appreciate it.
we may be out quick.
Do you wanna do this while you're waiting for Phyllis to come back?
No, we can get the budget committee comfy. Can I have 3 representatives unless everybody wants to come sit around the table? No?
I don't need to sit over here.
Okay.
I'll sit
Or I
right
can
next to
just
Bill.
take one.
I'll sit.
More the merrier.
Come on up.
Enjoy a comfy chair.
Nobody invites us
Can't
anyway.
reach the
Look
floor.
at me. I'm sitting on my
I
feet.
can't reach
Couple
the
more
floor.
chairs up here. and you
We
can
should
sit
have
up
gotten the
here with
people
us
who like
if
that.
you'd
Sitting on your feet so you don't look short.
There we go. Although it is on film, but
Yeah.
whatever.
You have plenty of room. Listen.
So you
The two
look
Melisses.
taller when you do that. I feel like I'm in 3rd grade.
All right. Fine, so we don't have to probably reach the floor.
Like being cozy.
Cozy crazy.
There's one on wheels right there if you want that one.
Yeah, Melissa, there you go.
Melissa can. Oh, yeah, this is.
I feel very lucky to have you all here.
That was very nice to start.
Good to
Just
go?
give Phyllis 2 seconds.
We're
Oh,
waiting
no
for
problem.
Phyllis. She had to clarify something with Jeff.
I feel like I need a booster
So you know what
seat,
happened
like
is the
telephone book. There's a pillow in that sedanza.
moved some impact fees to libraries.
We're gonna cut the legs down.
Increase.
That's it.
Oh, Phyllis has
Oh.
a pillow.
You're too
Oh.
late to get a seat.
No, here we go. Right at this end.
You have to sit over there. And you know what happened with these chairs, right? Miscalculation, I think, on my part, I'll take the blanks.
For the roller
Wheels
things, yeah.
Added 2 inches to the table, and so the chairs make us look like we're.
Right.
I don't feel so bad, look at this.
This is what happens when you go to a school board meeting, right?
Like my first game,
Well,
so.
we just got new furniture at the library, I swear the tables are small. They look like they're from the Wiggles show, they're like squiggly and just.
Yeah.
No. What are you doing at the courthouse?
Well,
You are?
yeah.
Yeah, they changed it around a bit.
Unbeknownst to me, I thought it was gonna be a couple days a week, it turned out to be, yes, it is a couple days a week, 5 a couple days a week. Well, we'll see. I haven't got-
Liz, you sitting on the floor?
Yeah.
I'm over the course.
Invite us in, but we talked, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and then as a result of some of the work of the Policies and Procedures Committee and what we've talked about as a group, a budget committee, there really was a hope to work more collaboratively with the Board of Selectmen going forward on the budget and talk about really eliminating if there were any surprises, increases that could be coming up. A lot of the work that the committee recommended was about standardizing policies and procedures, across the different departments in town. Also trying to synergize efforts between, the school and the town, seeing if there's areas where costs can be saved. We as a group and a committee fully, I'd say, realize and understand a large portion of our tax bill, comes at the co-op level, and as a committee and as a group, we don't have a ton to do with that, aside from being members of that, voting body when that's the appropriate time. But as far as what we can control as a group and a committee, the town operating budgets, as well as the school operating budget. So I think, and other people can chime in here too, I don't have to be the only spokesperson, but we're hoping, if possible, to get numbers earlier from the different departments. Last year, I think, especially when we talked about, just going back over like the code enforcement budget, and not to single out that department, but I think given the time that came up in the budget cycle and then previous increases, probably logistically, if that was the first budget that came up, it may not have been looked into, as deeply, or been brought back for a third or fourth discussion. So, we really want to be as fair as possible to all the department heads, because I think, it's not only our goal, but more so from you guys. We want fantastic department heads that have autonomy to run their departments, that want to stay and work in this town for a really long time. But we also catch a ton of feedback, on the taxpayer level, or from the taxpayer side, that the increases have been really substantial in recent years, and all you have to do is look at a property tax bill and compare that to, 5-10 years back. So, I don't know that any one set of recommendations, or one committee, or two committees, three committees working together is solving that problem, but like I said, the goal of this is just have more open communication with you guys, and Bob, as your representative to our board, does a really nice job conveying what's going on with you guys, but there's only so much time at the beginning and during our meeting cycles. So hopefully we can, work together, lay out a clearer plan. In our meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, for the minutes haven't been approved yet, but the gist of a resolution or motion that we asked for that passed was to have 0 budget increase from the departments year over year. I would say, with the caveat being on that, our understanding is that insurance is moving out to a different line item. And that's generally where our biggest and least controlled increases have come in from the past. So, I don't know, that's my, 5 minutes on that one, but anybody else have anything that I'm missing out here or that I glossed over?
I think I just want to add, so when I presented as the chair of the subcommittee, the budget subcommittee on policies and procedures, so we laid out those recommendations and you guys all looked at those and wanted to find out if you had any feedback on that, because I think what the subcommittee came up with is just this, efficiency and fairness. And so we really wanted to set with expectations early on, so that departments had the same message and communication across the board that this is where we're at, and so if our hope is that as you hearing from the department heads on a regular basis, what are the priorities on a regular, what are the priorities that are stacking up that we as a town really need to start having? What's our priority list? So if that means that one year, one department, and it's kind of understood among the department heads that we need to do this because this has elevated to a priority. We've been, if we have a failing bridge, for example, this is a priority and this is what we need to do. Then it means that perhaps something else has to go away and something is no longer, a nice to have. It's we have to make a hard decision, folks have to make hard decisions in their budgets. One of the things that I did an analysis on is that if we continue at the same pace in terms of our tax increases, okay, and my property is a good one to use only because I haven't changed it, there hasn't been any difference to it or anything like that. No additions, it's the same property. I'm estimating all looking and co-op, we're on pace for our property to double. That's sustainable. So I think as a budget committee, we've talked about that. We talked about that at this, and so I'm really curious to know what the selectmen are thinking about in terms of what do you think is reasonable for what the tax base can handle, because I think what was a surprise to me to find out was that one of the, we as a town or a community might have to tackle things in some very different ways than we've looked at things before. But Brentwood is a donor town now. I don't know, did the selectmen know that?
You talked about the last meeting.
At the last meeting, but
right.
you didn't probably, wasn't really a top of mind thing, but with that fact, that basically means that, more of our tax dollars that go to the state will then come back to our students either at the elementary or at the cooperative level to help offset our taxes. So that's significant. So that's kind of a bit of a double whammy situation going on. And, there are other things out of our control, like the value of our, real estate in town. And so we did, the subcommittee did look at a couple things, and I think what was surprising is at the co-op level, there's a formula that does look at the valuation of the town. And so it really has felt like Brentwood has paid more, you know, than other towns based on that valuation. Now, again, that's something that's out of our control, but are there things that we can do to raise awareness or to try and bring some understanding around this stuff? And I think we're gonna be at a point where we have to make some really, really hard choices. But I hear personally on a regular basis, the pace we're at, it's not sustainable. So I'm curious to know from the selectmen, you know, what do you think is sustainable, you know, in terms of increases? Because we have to really, that's what we have to look at, and then kind of work backwards. Like, what can we afford at this point? Because if we continue at the same pace or we go faster in terms of our increases, then that's gonna hit us a lot sooner than people realize.
There are a number of things that are out of our control. For example, the school has a contract and they're obligated 2.6, is that what your next year, right? So that's the kind of thing that's out of our control. The cost of living estimates that we have, and we just looked at those, is 1.6 to 1.8 coming up. I don't think we can not address that going forward. And I don't think we can say to any of the departments, 0. Now, there are some ways to get there. For example, as there's turnovers in the departments and people are hired into the departments, the cost of wages should be less. So we should be able to absorb what cost of living raises might be for the coming year. But I think the answer that we are looking at as a group is that we are looking to offset some of the property tax for residences by having commercial properties coming into town that would offset some of that. And you have to also look at the fact that the town's grown. We're in the 4,400, 4,500 population range, which then demands that services be provided. They want those services. One of the things I found out last night at the school board meeting, which I didn't know, is that we've eliminated impact fees for the schools for the over 55 communities, and we don't have to do that. I always thought that because it's over 55, they don't have kids going to school, they have to pay the school impact fees. I found out last night from the school attorney that we could impose those fees. There are things that we need to look at that we maybe assume are correct that really aren't. I agree with you, I don't think it's sustainable to have the kind of increases we've had in the last couple of years. But, you know, there are things that fire, police, medical, those are all things that have to be provided to everybody that lives here, I think. How we do that is another way to look at it. And you heard what happened with the library. The library's increased population, traffic, people using the library services. That's not gonna go away. That's gonna continue to increase, I think. So we need to address those things going forward with some kind of reasonableness, I think. And I think this getting together for us, I think, is a really good idea, because if we're on the same page, we can address the department heads and say, this is what our expectation is for the coming year. Here's what we want you to come back with. I haven't done that yet, but it's something that we probably ought to group together. Here's the kind of increase for the, so you guys are gonna have to look at the department heads. I think the department heads need to, okay, we're our expectations, and look at your operation employees, come up with some way to do that. I'm not sure what our expectation is at this point. I would like to see 0, but I don't think you can say 0. I think you probably have to say something
With the insurance coming out, all the budgets are gonna look lower.
Yeah, but one of the things we agreed to do last year was to move
Yeah,
all
and
of those expenses
and I
into a
agree,
separate
it should be.
category that will be just across the board.
Right,
This is the insurance that we have to address.
right.
And not have it be
But everybody's
a
budget's gonna
department
look like it's
budget.
gone down.
Well,
Rather, it's gonna be a
But we know
town
what the
budget.
figure is that
Yeah,
was taken
yeah.
out.
and
so-
one of the
Oh.
things we asked for is to allow us to have an apples-to-apples comparison, have it taken out, but also have another
in
place
there,
where it's
okay.
put in, so we can
Okay,
see
so
the
you
year
know.
on
Yeah,
year.
see what it is.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, at least for this coming year, so
Right.
we have both, and then next year you'll have the out
Right,
budget.
right, okay.
Then you can do
Right.
out and out, yeah.
Right, okay.
But
Makes
the other
sense.
thing is, I think we have to ask the department heads, especially, you know, something like the police that has had 2 or 3 raises this year. If you want raises, try to build it into, you know, like, make something else less in your budget. As Bill said, if you get newer people, they should presumably be paid less than
Right.
the people that are leaving that have been here for a long time. So I'd like to sort of see if you want raises to that, some of the raises built into sort of current numbers, or pretty close to current numbers. So that maybe something else goes away, like special uniforms or something. No, I'm not talking about you know,
Well,
you know what I mean, like
I
if
think
we.
what we tried to do this year, and when we were addressed and asked to approve raises, was to, number one, make sure there was no increase in terms of the budgets that were available. So I think you saw tonight, we talked about, we didn't do anything with it yet, but there's an anticipation that we will. So the fire department wants to hire and restructure their personnel. Well, if the chief hires a full-time firefighter this year, there would be no impact because he's got the money in his budget, but we are looking at a large impact for next year. So if that's a $70,000 increase to his budget, I think we would expect him to look and see if there's some places where he could cut some of that money so that it wouldn't be such a large increase. On the other hand, he has addressed the fact that we have a need for more firefighters because the need is there. We have to provide that service and to get the kind of coverage that he thinks we need based on what's happened with the actions that have occurred and how we need to address the things that are coming. I think he said he needs coverage from 6 to 6. Well, the only way to get that is to get additional personnel in the fire department. He's had trouble getting people. The idea we had was the per diem on-call firefighters. He's had trouble getting people to do that. So the way he's wanted to address that is a full-time position.
And if I missed that, that patient, so, just challenge the select department heads, you know, I don't know if there's a regional solution, because I know that trying to find good workers is tough across all of these small towns. And, you know, we happen to have this, actually the location of the, you know, safety complex in Brentwood is actually a really great location, and I wonder if there's some opportunity for a regional, you know, so like an off hours, or, you know, the 6 to 6 or whatever, if there's some opportunity to collaborate, just like is there opportunity for the town to collaborate with the school and certain maintenance or whatever, and, you know, so that we can actually have synergies and efficiencies and do things more efficiently and perhaps more collaboratively, and at the end of the day, it's gonna serve the needs for everybody and it's gonna be the best solution. You know, here we are in the county seat, and I've always wondered, you know, what benefits does the town of Brentwood get from the county? You
Lack
know,
of taxes from government offices.
Yeah.
but you see what I'm saying, but so I mean, I don't wanna, there are times when I feel like, you know, here we are in this town, and we've, you know, our services respond to different county things, whether that's a courthouse or, you know, and, I just feel like perhaps maybe we need to be squeaking a little bit louder to the county that perhaps we need to get a bigger share of those county taxes to help offset some of the services that we have been providing for the county over all of these years.
I'd like to say something about that. For several years, the chief has written letters to the county commissioners requesting a donation for new fire equipment, et cetera, because of the service that we do provide to them. Of the number of ambulance calls the last several years, 2/3 or more go to the county home.
My point is well made,
Oh, no question.
right? So this is, so I don't
But
know
aren't
if,
we reimbursed for those calls?
We are, oh, no, for the ambulance we are, but what I'm telling you
not for
is,
the staff necessarily,
No.
right? Not for the staff, and so this is the issue, if we're having problems with personnel, can't we work with the county? You know, maybe we work with the county staff, we work with other communities, but, you know, there are a lot of towns and cities that are in Rockingham County that should be able to, you know, pay a bigger share so that Brentwood isn't getting burdened with all of this, and I don't wanna, I'm just gonna say it, I kinda feel like we're a doormat sometimes, and it's just not right. And we've talked, ever since I've lived in town for 22 years, we've talked about it. Now, I don't, you know, yes, we've done the nice route, let's ask for a donation, let's do this. But maybe there's a different route that needs to be taken, because this is not sustainable for the residents and the taxpayers of Brentwood. And that's just one example, the county thing. So do we, again, why should we have to limit what we need to do for, you know, our residents? Because we're, you know, the county should be able to provide more. I think too, was it one of our meetings that we found out that the county actually has, is it $400,000 worth of donations that they make to
Yeah, I
various
think-
organizations?
In reference to
I've heard
regional
that too.
organizations, that was that
I
discussion.
think I heard that.
Yeah, so the county is donating taxpayer dollars to different organizations, right? So, I mean, I don't know, I think Brentwood should be at the top of that list. And it shouldn't even be a donation, there should be some kind of a contract where we're doing services, so.
Yeah, we get a bill from them once a year.
Yeah,
That's the only, Chris, you can't blow smoke up a chimney. It just is not gonna happen. We have over 90 state representatives in Rockingham County. We are represented by one. We can't get anything done because they're not going to take the additional burden.
Well, so they are gonna continue to expect a small little town of 4,400 residents to take that burden on?
Oh, no, I think
The
you're
tax burden?
overstating it, personally.
But you can just see, that's one of the things that, you know, we're gonna have to look at other solutions that are different than probably what we've done in the past. I think we're at that breaking point, that's just me speaking personally as feedback that I've gotten, and
I think it might be difficult, I understand what you're saying, I don't disagree with what you're saying, I don't know what benefit we get being the county seat, we are the county seat.
It's a piece of paper, that's all it is.
That's it.
I mean,
and a
that's-
sign. We get a sign, a sign.
But I think maybe besides, maybe we need to take a more aggressive approach and say, look, we're not just asking you now. We're providing services here, like the ambulance calls to the nursing home. We respond to every fire alarm because that's our obligation. We're not just gonna be providing services without getting any benefit back to the town.
They wouldn't
And just
even-
telling us that we're the county seat doesn't cut it anymore. We need to see some dollars and cents coming back into the town, and they may just tell us, well, tough, they might, but maybe we need to try and do that. In a little more of aggressive fashion to say, look, we're not gonna keep doing this and not getting anything back, and I know everybody benefits, but do you think some of the other towns in Rockingham County they could care less whether we're putting money out or not putting money out? There is a prestige part of it as well. You know, we do have services that are here that aren't anywhere else.
But, or what we could say is, listen, we're not getting coverage, we're having trouble getting coverage with fire or police or safety or first responders. Can the county help us out and provide some of that coverage? You know what I
Could
mean?
they pay for one fireman and one policeman or something like that?
I don't know, I'm
That's
just,
something that we could ask for.
you know, I mean, I actually just saw a thing on Chronicle about what county sheriffs do, and I was surprised, I had no idea that they had, the kind of training was intense that they had, so.
And they do, the sheriff's department does provide, today they provided help, they
Right.
provided assistance. The sheriff's department is responsible for a lot of facilities that are county facilities, they're providing, services for those facilities, so it's not like we as the town has to do that. The sheriff's department does most of that, most of the staffing, most of the security, most of, law enforcement, so. So there, before we go charging into the county and say, hey, we need to make sure that what it is that we're getting as well as the benefit, so.
Well, I don't think we can go charging anything.
No,
There's
I don't think
nothing
we can.
legally that says the county has to give us money.
Right.
And every other town that pays taxes isn't gonna say, ooh, I wanna up my tax rate so I can pay for Brentwood's taxes.
Right.
Yeah, but it's,
And the towns for many years suffered because the school budget and the co-op budget takes precedence. If you can get the school and co-op budget to be 0% tax impact to the town, I am all for the Brentwood to go along with it. But the Brentwood employees and the Brentwood departments can't suffer because we need to control spending because of what the schools do.
Right, I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm saying that we're gonna have to, we're at a point where it's, let's all agree, it's not sustainable, you all agree with that, right? It's not sustainable, so if it's not sustainable, what are some of the approaches that we could potentially take that maybe we've never tried before? Maybe, you know, let's start getting creative, maybe we have that regional approach, maybe we talk to the county, maybe we reach out to the cooperative board, you know, and we're lucky, cause Melissa, she serves on, you know, the Brentwood Budget Committee, and she's also the representative of both of the boards, and, you know, I'm sure you've talked about going back and this is like, but she's just one person. So she had support of the selectmen and other, you know, organizations saying, we gotta do something different. I think it's gonna be more powerful, and maybe perhaps hopefully impactful, you know? That's all I have. I don't know if Michelle, you've got anything to add?
I think you've all pretty much covered it. I think the thing that I would stress the most is having all the departments sort of, you know, realizing that we're a whole community. I can't come in as one department wanting this, that, and everything else, and then the next department come in wanting this, that, and everything else. No, you need to understand that we all need to work together. So as she said, something's gotta give. We can't have it all.
And I think the push for wanting budgets earlier in the season is so that we can see the whole picture when we're looking at the individual budgets, because it is a disadvantage to be one of the departments that comes in at the end of the season when we're going, oh no, we've spent too much money. That's not really fair. It's not equitable if you happen to be slated towards the end of the budget season as opposed to the beginning of the budget season. So we wanna try and make that more equitable, so if we can see like an idea of what the whole picture is, as we start looking at the individual budgets, we feel like we can more fairly evaluate the individual budgets.
I would be very amendable to the fact that a certain budget date, every department has to submit their budget to the selectmen. We can sit down and look at them before we call the department heads in.
And have a more holistic.
Right, and
Yeah.
then also forward that budget to the budget committee, and you guys can wrap your heads around what people are asking for. And then we would, instead of 3 departments at a time, coming before the board every week, and sometimes it's 2 months.
Didn't last year we get them ahead of time?
Last week you got them a week early,
Right.
so you had an opportunity to review them before
Right.
the department head came.
Right.
Logistically, the only issue with that is that insurance rates are not set until the end of October. So realistically, you can't see anything until
Except
first
that
time
we're
in
gonna
November.
take that out of each individual. I mean,
Oh,
that's
that's
the
true.
plan, so the
Right. That's
insurance cost should not be the impact. What we should do is tell the departments, we want you to give us your projections even before we get the insurance information, so we know what they're looking at. Because we can show both the insurance in the budget and the insurance in a new category for us. And it shouldn't matter for what everything else that goes on in the budgets for the departments. I hope you're all hearing this, because what we want you to do is come back in and say, here, this is what we need, this is what we can live with. So, you know, I would love to have $1 million as my budget at my house, and that's just not realistic. So you're hearing what everybody's concern is, not just these 2 groups, but the taxpayers in general are saying, we can't keep paying this kind of money. We can't live here. And we all know new people have a real trouble moving here because they can't afford to move here. There's really not a lot of affordable housing. You talk about over 55, those houses are like $429,000, $450,000.
Yeah, that's
That's not very affordable for a group, for the group I'm talking about, is the people who have graduated from school and are now beginning to work and raise a family. How can they live here? They can't. We're gonna price ourselves out of the market for the kind of people that we need to keep the town growing. You can't just have over 55 people.
The other thing that's so impactful, obviously, is the co-op budget. And I don't know how we can do a better job of educating the taxpayers to go to those meetings. There's really just 1 or 2 that they need to go to, that are February and March, or I guess they're both in February, to you know, like, become knowledgeable in the co-op budget, because that's the biggest increase we ever get, and it's also the biggest part of our budget. and we need people to know this before
Yeah,
it gets to the vote time, and I don't know how many more times we can put in the
But what
newsletter.
happens is that the general sense is that the school, which is really not the case, but the school is sucking all the money away.
It's not the
before-
local schools, the
No,
co-ops.
it's not, but the perception is that the schools cost us so much money that here's what's left over. And what I've tried to explain to people when I've had the opportunity is you need to look at the school as just a large department in town. They are the largest department employment-wise. They have many more employees at the school than we do in any other
But
single
I'm not talking
department
about
in
our
town.
local school, I'm talking about
But
the
you're right,
regional
but we
school.
have almost zero impact in how they've assessed Brentwood over the years. There's a formula that they use, and unfortunately, the formula that they use looks at Brentwood as a very wealthy community, and therefore their contribution to the middle school and the high school is very large. It's larger than anybody else.
Well, obviously, the state looks at it as a very wealthy community
They
too,
do.
if we're a donor town now.
Because they
Well, we
look at
have been,
our property
though,
values and they say,
since
you're very
Claremont.
well off here.
So Karen and I were just talking back and forth, we could do October 1 for a date that every department head had to submit their budgets to the selectmen. We can then forward that to the budget committee and we will start listening to budgets on the 15th.
That sounds great.
We don't see the cemetery, we don't even meet until after the first, so we won't have our budget.
When you meet again.
And the only
October
other trick to that
3rd.
is the department head meeting is on the 24th of September.
Right.
That was my next
Yeah.
question.
So
that's
they're
not
here
enough
with us.
time.
They don't meet till the
They're here
third.
with
so small.
Yeah, but the
You can
department
have
heads are
them
gonna meet
do-
with us earlier than October first, and we can tell them, hey, this is when
Yeah,
your
you can
budget
have
is.
them do and
Or
then
we
they
can
get,
submit, the budget committee can submit a memo to every department head, what their expectations are, and we can submit whatever.
No, I think that's our responsibility, not the budget
Yeah.
committee.
Well, I think the budget committee should share their expectations.
which we just did.
I think that's why we're here, but I think ultimately it has to come from the selectmen. You guys
Absolutely.
run the
Right.
town.
Right,
so-
but you guys are also gonna vote on the budget
Right.
as well, because we've had a couple of years where there's been a selectmen's budget and a budget committee budget.
And I think
because
that's
we
one of the
didn't agree.
reasons we wanted to meet before budget season started, is hopefully that we would all be close to on the same page, and that could be communicated to department heads in advance.
Let me clarify what you said. It's true that we may run the town, and that may be the perspective, but we only run the town with what the money that you guys have approved for us to run the town with.
No, that's
So-
not.
I disagree
That-
with
I
that.
disagree with
That's
that.
what the
No,
voters,
when that goes to the
That's
town
not
meeting
true.
in March,
I disagree
the
with that.
town as a whole says,
We're the ones that,
okay, we will give you this much money. And then we administer what has to be administered here, the money that we have. The town ultimately decides how much money we're gonna have to use to run the town.
But Bill, the
This should be a
selectmen,
joint, which is why we're here now. This should be a joint effort and a joint expectation communicated
you're
out to
wrong
the
with
department heads, that this is what our expectation is. Not just the selectmen, but the budget committee as well. This is what we expect going forward. This is what we would like to see for next year's budgets. And I think that should be a joint communication.
I mean, I think our hope is that we'll leave this meeting with a joint expectation that we've all agreed to. But I don't think it's appropriate for the budget committee to communicate directly with department heads in our
right. 'cause it's
old
not-
silo. I think any communication has to come from the selectmen and say it's based on a discussion with the budget committee. And that may be a small point, but I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with the budget committee sending memos to department heads,
Right.
giving them directives.
I mean, and the
budget
selectmen have a
committee's- The budget
fiduciary.
committee's only supposed to overlook the budget and make sure that we're not buying, like Mrs. Gove used to say, we're not buying a Cadillac when we can buy a Chevy, okay? Their job is, it's our job to make the budget.
That's right.
Well, you have a fiduciary responsibility as well, the selectmen do, but the budget committee does too. You have both a management and a fiduciary, and ours is a fiduciary.
Well, I mean, I think if you're, John Q. citizen or John Q. taxpayer, whatever the situation, or Jane, and that, like, I mean, you look at
Right.
both sides for guidance, provided,
Right.
you have any understanding of how it works, which is not the easiest thing, but, none of the RSA or none of our bylaws or none of your bylaws necessarily say we have to agree. You know, hopefully
That's
life,
right.
life is
Right.
easier when we all do.
Right.
But it's, you know, whether it's 50 people, 100 people, 600 people, whoever's at the gym, you know, the Friday night for school district or Saturday morning, they get to decide. I mean, I could vehemently disagree with all of you and every single one of them, and my option is to move.
And they
But
want the
it's-
services, so they vote for it.
Yeah, no, so it's like, I mean, I think, you know, hopefully, again, we have some type of agreement in what we're looking to see, but, you know, each department is also treated, you know, on a case-by-case basis, and I think, you know, this meeting or these conversations are a first step. You know, you don't make a sweeping change overnight as much as anybody would like to, but I think over time, you know, small incremental changes actually have that like downstream effect where they take hold and they become, you know, lasting. You don't have a situation where we say, all right, we're in a crisis budget, so everybody's cutting 10%. And then it's like everybody has that attitude or reaction of the next time around, like, well, as soon as this goes up, I'm getting every nickel I can because when those, you know, blah, blah, blahs cut me again, I better have enough in there to keep it. So it's like we should keep the conversation, you know, like start small.
Yeah, but see, it's our responsibility to make sure that everything is there. So that there's enough money to repair the roads and enough money to plow the roads and enough money to repair the bridge. And there needs to be some contingency there so that when something happens, we can deal with that. It's our responsibility to make sure that the police department provides services for everybody in town. Our responsibility to make sure that there's services from the fire department or there's an ambulance, you know. And the citizens in this community who may complain somewhat, not terribly, they have that expectation that, hey, we put you in that position so you can make sure we're gonna be okay, whatever it is that needs to be done. So, you know, and I have to tell you that the select board puts that expectation on our town administrator quite a lot. We expect that she's gonna be able to take care of things on a day-to-day basis that the taxpayers expect are gonna be done. And nothing happens by magic. Things have to be taken care of by the people who work here.
We're very fortunate that we have the form of government we do. The citizens ultimately control our direction on town meeting day. They can dislike our budget, they can dislike your budget, and they can bring it down to zero and build it back up. So this conversation has a point, but I have a job and the budget committee has a job, and not necessarily are we gonna agree. It doesn't mean that we don't like each other, it just means we have different opinions.
Hi, so in a minute, I'd like to put on my school board hat with a couple of updates and some information regarding finances. But prior to that, I have a question that I want to ask because we're all sitting here just based on something I heard tonight. And there's no way to put it where, I don't know how to articulate it so it doesn't come off wrong. So I'm asking and I'm learning, okay? It happened earlier where we had a department that they were given the officers were given a raise. And I'm not questioning whether or not they needed or not, I don't have the back information, okay? But that was just a couple months before we as a budget committee were starting budget season. And even though, if I understand correctly, even though they had money in their budget, for the rest of this year, we need to figure out what we're gonna do moving forward, if I'm interpreting it correctly. So my question is, I sit here and I hear them talking about, the fire department, and if I were to just put on my citizen hat, I look at it like, why don't we have overnight? Always I've thought, why don't we have overnight coverage? We keep adding to the day, okay? But I know that's out in left field. My question is, if I heard them correctly, we have 13,000, that we're gonna utilize to get us through the year, but that it's gonna be 70,000 next year. We're talking about in just 2 weeks, trying to get budgets into you, right? And then the budget committee season starts. I guess I don't understand. I guess my concern is, but it's because I don't understand. I feel like the department heads are coming to you all before year end because they come to you first. Which could adversely impact other departments. It did it the way we kind of set it out to be in the first place, if that makes sense. Do you understand that they're kind of playing by the rules that were set
The only reason
forth?
why they had the money is because of people have left. And that's the only reason why they had the money. They didn't over budget.
But he's not,
But they don't have full amount of money. They don't have the full amount for a year. That's
They
the
don't have
point.
it.
They don't have it, so they might have a little bit to get them by to get to hire
And then
somebody
they'll put
now.
it in the budget for next year.
But then that's
well, they're my concern.
that-
Do you want to
Yeah.
all?
I see the appearance. Here's to that particular
Yeah.
situation. People have left.
Right.
He's had trouble hiring people to fill in those people who left. At the same time, he has told us, and he has accumulated information, that the busy time of service is between 6 in the morning and 6 at night. That's when the most accidents occur, that's when the most incidents occur, that's when he most needs. And he's having with what we thought was a reasonable approach, is to pay people to be on call to make sure that there's
Right.
coverage. Can't find people who wanna do that, so you can't force people to do that. His approach, and what he thinks is a reasonable approach, is to hire a full-time, because then he knows he has control over that person's gonna be there. You have to pay somebody to be a full-time firefighter, you can't just say, and remember that we're competing with all the towns around us. And so it has to be a competitive amount that we're looking for. I asked him tonight, do you have somebody in mind? He doesn't. He's hoping he can find somebody to be willing to come here and work full-time and do that coverage from 12 to 12, including himself, he's gonna be not just the chief, he's also gonna be, an Indian working 12 to 12 as well. So, it may have been.
So would that
and that's-
13,000
Can I just
have
follow
been
up on
to
that
pay
before you
people?
ask your question, because this may clarify a little bit.
Yeah.
This has been a discussion for a couple weeks, so if you look at the minutes, look at Vimeo, you can see. We sent the chief back to the drawing board to give us numbers of what he gets by hiring somebody, how it helps him, and that's why we didn't vote on it tonight, because we don't have a full board. We're not trying to sneak something past the budget committee. We have an emergency. The town of Brentwood's fire department is not going to calls on the weekends. If you dial 911, you may not get a Brentwood Fire Department person.
So that full-time person is for the weekends.
It's, so the coverage goes now 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
With
Andy,
the addition,
Andy, is that an issue not just for Brentwood, but for other towns?
It is, but more and more towns are going to full-time departments. And that's been our problem, is we're losing staff to other departments that are hiring full-timers. So our per diem staff no longer wants to work on call part-time because they're getting hired full-time.
So this idea of maybe working regionally might be the solution for all of the towns, kind of in a consortium, and then.
Way back in the day, Jeff Bryant came up with the idea of a cooperative fire department. Problem is it's New England. Nobody doesn't wanna give up control.
Well, maybe.
Who buys all of the fire apparatus? So Brentwood has, I don't know, throw out a number, $3 million worth of fire apparatus. Epping has $4 million in their quarters. Kingston has the same thing. Where does all that money come from now to buy all that apparatus and put the tri-town label on it? And then Brentwood has different colors, Epping has different colors, Kingston has different colors. What color do we use? Who becomes the chief?
I don't know.
Which chief gets fired?
Well, I understand that, but I guess
I would
I'd like
love
to,
to
I
do-
would, yeah, I would love to, like, for us to, like, go beyond the New England, on an island mentality and prove everybody wrong, that, believe it or not, we actually are seeking and asking to, like, work cooperatively and stuff like that.
love to be able
But maybe you don't have to do that far.
One day Andy has said, we've talked about that, would be wonderful to have a regional.
No,
fire
but maybe you
department.
don't even have to go that far.
No, but the reality is, that what he's talking about, these are the kind of issues that they say, well, we think we should have green fire trucks. And the next town says, we think we should have red fire trucks. And you don't understand, it's not just, oh, well, come on, get over that. There has to be somebody up here who says, get over it. Now, this is the way it's gonna work. Who would that be, is the question.
Michelle,
But what I'm saying is, maybe we don't even have to go that far, maybe you can have a policeman or a fire, in this particular case, it's a fireman, but maybe you have a fireman, you still have all your little fiefdoms, but maybe you have a fireman that is a third in Epping, a third in Brentwood, and a third in Kingston, right?
You're
Certain
sharing
days
a
whatever.
personnel
You're sharing a
resource.
person, you're not changing any of the, I don't know
But
if
what
that
time
would
do they
work.
work in
And where
Brentwood?
would
What
they
time do they
work?
work in
Where would they work on Monday, Wednesday,
Well,
and
you'd
Friday?
figure that out, you know, you'd have,
No, you can't just. say
30%
figure
or
it out.
whatever.
Somebody has to be in charge. of it.
somebody has to
Right,
be
but
in charge,
that's
but I'm just
leadership.
saying, that's a lot less than
Right.
doing a whole regional garden, that's still
Yeah.
maintaining your colors, your whatever.
See,
I
yeah.
mean, the fire gear isn't
I always
that
thought
different.
fire trucks were red. What, did I miss
But,
something?
but it's also a different,
Some
you
of
don't
them
need
are, some of them
necessarily,
aren't.
for fire, you don't need necessarily different colors, maybe for police, but for fire, I mean, they're all wearing a helmet, they're all wearing the
Think about the
the
police,
heavy
now
coats
think
and
about the
the,
police cruisers, when you see a car go by,
I'm talking about fire.
but this is the same concept. Epping has white
Yellow.
sides of their cruisers and black, we have all black, where you can't even see the name that you complained about before.
Yeah, you can't see it, you can't see it.
Kingston has blue letters on the side of their cruisers, now, that seems like a small thing, but it's
Well, Chief
really
Robinson
not.
is here, it's his fault.
So,
He's not chief anymore.
a community cooperative department's not gonna be solved in a year. That's gonna take us some time to work towards. So, all I'm asking, so we can settle this for tonight, what's the budget committee's expectation for a budget increase or not increase for 2020?
So our motion from the other night was a 0% increase.
I believe it was a 0% increase for the town budget,
For the
not
entire
each
budget, not
department.
for individuals.
So for an overall 0%
So
increase.
somebody has a 10%
So somebody may go up,
else would have
somebody
to have
may
a
go
10%
down.
increase.
Does that
Well, it's
apply to
not-
the school as well?
It's not one for one.
I don't think we included this.
So,
I have it.
we will forward that on to the departments that the budget committee is looking for a 0%, and then we will look at theirs. Robin, you had a question?
So back to Melissa's original point, and the fire department is not the only department that's done that, you know, I sit
And
through
we're
these
not
meetings.
picking on them.
I'm
We're
not
trying to
picking on anybody
understand.
either, but
Yeah.
but your point is
Yeah.
if you're using the money, that you've got in your budget because people have left or
It's
something else
available.
has happened, and you spend it this year on a raise or a piece of equipment or anything else, what happens next year, because that new person now has a raise and you don't have that money for next year, you have to come back to the taxpayers and ask for more money. So, okay, you're flat this year, but next year you're up 70,000 for this department, 20,000 for that department, because you had the money this year, but you don't have it next year.
And let's be totally honest about it, not all that money is saved on personnel. If a department, in the fire department, they don't buy new tires for a truck or something, if you guys really wanna look into it, you'll see that a lot of this extra cash that's out there that any department asks for is not really line by line, and that's really what the budget committee is responsible, or wants to look at. You may think it's all coming from personnel, but I'll bet you look into that fire department budget, and that money that they've got, that slush money, that 13 grand, is not just from personnel, but it's probably
Agreed.
from their whole budget.
It's probably for police
How
that
can you
was,
have
since we had
0%
down to 2
insurance and
officers, I believe.
Well,
it was.
that could be,
Yeah.
but I think, I wanna say something just as Joe,
You're catching on.
taxpayer, looking down
So
at
just
my life.
before you do that, Bruce, I know everybody knows who you are, but your name, address.
Oh, Bruce Stevens, 84 South Road. And I have to concur with Andy, because unless I think that, when the budget committee says no increases, 0, we're gonna hold the budget as it was last year, it always galls me as a taxpayer, and I'm not really pro-school board or pro-town, but to hear, well, the school board negotiated this raise with the union, so it's 2.6%, so that's what our people are gonna get, but then you ask the town employees to take a 0% increase.
It's so funny that you should mention that, because last year the school board came in at a 2.6%, right? Negotiated. We had a guaranteed maximum rate. I can't remember what it was on the health
With your
insurance.
overall budget.
It was hefty.
0.7.
Yeah, we had come in minimum, and we always come in with our best foot forward, always. And my goal was always 1% or less. And they might come in at, let's say, 4%, the superintendent, which they try to come in as low as they can, but they might come in higher, and we always try to bring it down as low as possible, and we always come in low.
You
They
were less
def-
than the raise
They were,
this year.
yeah, they were, exactly.
It was less
We
than
absorb
one
it in
last
other
year. It was less than
areas,
one?
we absorb it
Yes,
elsewhere.
You're doing
One
what Bruce is
person at a
talking
time.
about. You're doing, so basically, even though you had a personnel increase of 2.6, your overall budget, line by line, came in under 1%,
See, the
correct?
town doesn't have that large of budget that they have that extra money in there to compensate town employees, somewhere close to the same rate of increase that the school gets. And people always say, well, the school people, the school employees are more educated and all of that. But they're always making more money, I mean, they're making more money to
So
begin with.
I just want to
So
politely
equity.
disagree, because for that particular raise for our teachers, it was a warrant article, and whoever came to the meeting voted, they did not have to vote for it. Do you understand
But
what
do
I'm
you see
saying?
with the fairness, I'm just saying, in fairness, it should be the town employees ought to get a reasonable percent of, increase somewhere close to what the school employees do.
Sometimes they get more, police got 4, and then they got
Six.
another raise,
Yeah,
4 or 6 or something.
All I know is that we came in asking for like a percent last year, but there was like another department that started 29%. So I think I think we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah, that's all I'm
I really
asking,
do.
there just should be some
And that's what
equity
we're saying, if you're gonna come in with raises, try to cut somewhere else so your budget is close to.
there. But if you do have a very large budget, it's much easier to cut that.
It could be, you have more people though, you have way more people, and the school budget is almost,
And
it's
we
it's
give money
hugely,
back, yeah.
hugely people. I mean, that's
70%.
Well, yeah, and that's to be
Seventy-
commended, it's to be
75%
commended that you're
people.
giving money back, you're not using it, not just shuffling that extra money to some other pet project.
And I think the reason why we're doing this is that we want to be proactive. We understand that, we probably as a town can no longer look at something from year to year. We need to have a long-term view. That long-term view is gonna require doing things out of the box, having a different level of leadership, communicating with the co-op, communicating with the school, communicating with all stakeholders that where we're going is not sustainable. And this is a reason why when we had the subcommittee, we didn't feel that it was fair that some departments that came in earlier in the season versus others kind of had a different outcome just because of the procedure that we had,
So-
that didn't seem
No
fair.
offense, we're going over the same thing over and over again, so.
Yeah.
Let's,
All right, so may I just update quick on?
sure.
So wait a second, are you doing the October 1st, or is that gone by the wayside, cause it's too?
We'll talk about it next week,
Oh,
but
okay.
but we will pass on, so everybody knows the expectation that.
Okay, so all I want to do.
Just one more question
yeah.
before you move on to school.
Yeah.
So you're talking zero across total operating budget, not budget by budget?
Correct.
Correct.
I just want to make sure, because police, fire, and highway have a much easier time giving up something for raises, and town office staff don't have that benefit.
Right.
Because our budget is just salaries, so.
Right. Yeah, no, and if you're like.
Bottom line budget.
Yeah, if it's a one-person department, that's, call it
So
The 10
15,000.
of us will work together to cut something from one place to benefit somebody else in this building.
And I really just want to go over dates, but something had popped in my mind when we're talking about cutting here or there. Being a part of the co-op, we do benefit in different ways as far as the synergies are concerned. And just one simple example is the town, what do you call it, the electricity, the solar power units, okay? We had someone come and speak to us, the town's doing it, it's working out well, could the school consider doing it? So we sat and we listened, we're actually paying a penny less for our electric, because first, February and March is time. Doing the third Tuesday of every month, that co-op board meets, that's when you come and speak up concerns about the budget. Come February or March, they've already done it. And then if you make a cut at the deliberative session, they're just scrambling, you know what I mean, to,
So
with
do
their
you
heads
think
cut
a
off.
representative selectman or budget committee should come to the cooperative meeting?
I don't see why not. I mean,
Okay.
that's your personal opinion, but I'm just saying, it's just, nobody comes, period, okay? So, we meet on Wednesdays for the, Exeter Regional Budgetary Committee.
The finance?
The finance.
Finance
Yeah,
or budget
there's
advisory?
two. No, there's advisory and there's finance. So finance meets before our meetings on Tuesdays. I'm chair of the finance, actually. And then I'm also appointed to the budget advisory committee. That meets on Wednesdays. Typically, it doesn't start meeting until November. And that actually starts tomorrow night this year. They're starting early. And the
So I don't mean to rush you, but we still have other business, so
Alright.
if you could
Sure.
sum up what you wanna talk
Yeah.
about, so we can get on to the
So I
rest
just
of
want to
our.
tell you quickly, we're committed to getting our business done too. So we're supposed to have our Swayze budget by October 1st for us to take a look at. And September 27th is when we're looking to vote that Monday on maybe it's the 20, sorry, hold on, I'll give you a date and then I'm done. We're looking to vote very early on the joint board budget, so all the other towns can go ahead and do their budgets. And that would be on Monday the 30th. That's all I had to say.
You got appointed to the budget advisory committee?
That was last year too. I actually,
You're just,
not elected, there was someone from another town that was doing it. I am the only Brentwood rep on the co-op, and we didn't have anybody going, so I actually had an official motion made, so I could sit at the table and talk, so
Isn't
that would,
George Marquis
yes,
our
I can
rep?
talk.
about last night.
Isn't George Marquis our rep though?
He is, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna get together again with the budget committee at some point?
So no September
Like after
30th?
October.
What's that?
No,
there is enough.
No, joint board.
I think we
The
can,
advisory is
if we
tomorrow
see a
night,
need.
Liz.
Okay. So we contact Keith and say,
Get in touch with Michelle, she runs the show.
Why do all my bosses say that?
it's protected.
Thank you guys very much for having us in.
Thank
I
you.
don't know, that's Michelle.
Good night, Bruce.
Documents,
This is an appointment slip for Justin Kane as an alternate member of the cemetery trustees.
Yeah, we voted that at the, meeting.
The one
so would that be a motion?
I make a motion that we,
I'll second.
Any
Point.
discussion about having Justin Kane as a Brentwood Cemetery trustee? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
no. He lives in, Betty Waite's, George Cohen's old house, Betty Waite's old house.
Betty White? Part of the Golden Girls?
Betty Waite, Betty Waite.
That's the letter to Jeremy. You voted on that.
Dear Jeremy, it was great regret that I formally acknowledge the receipt of your resignation notice on September 17th. It's been a pleasure to work with you on behalf of the entire town and wish you good fortune in all your future endeavors.
You know, Robin might be able to help you, chief. She drives a tractor.
Take any kind of help.
There was a letter in the mail from Donahue Tucker Ciandella about asking if the town wanted to participate in their development with participating communities for right-of-way ordinance for utilities.
And Glenn has volunteered to do it.
Glenn has volunteered to go to the meetings on the town's behalf.
Do you want a motion to that effect?
There's costs involved.
Of course there is.
Just make sure you understand.
So the cost would be divided equally amongst all of the member towns. So I think it says in there it's like $195 or $210 per hour depending on
Do they have
the
an
level of
estimation
associate.
of,
How
They
well
didn't provide the
people's
total.
hourly rates.
Generally, it's 5,000 or 6,000 per community.
Okay.
And Glenn's hours would be, so he would offset the hours that he spends at a meeting by reducing those hours during the Wednesdays here.
But that's something we're probably gonna have to face down the road because of the court case that's going,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Right, so this is a development of that new FTC law that's on there.
So I'm thinking we probably ought to jump on that at the beginning because otherwise we might be standing out there in the cold ourselves looking at a court case.
So do you need a motion, Chairman? I'll make the motion.
have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And on Thursday, we're going to scoot over to the fire station from 10 to 11 for fire safety training. It's part of joint office. So Kristen will be here, so the town clerk's office will remain open, and then the rest of us will sort of shift in and out.
Okay.
And I move that you close the town office tomorrow during the 9/11 ceremony and allow all employees to go to it.
All right. Make,
Do
make
I have
that,
a second?
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wayne, do you have something?
Yeah, I just got a couple things to ask you.
Come on down.
I have a question.
Sure, ask it while he's walking.
Oh, Karen, do we have the road signs for Three Ponds? Did they ever get audited,
I do.
remember?
I have,
Oh, do you
them
have
down
them?
the shed.
Well, cause.
I think I
there's
do,
people
I'm
living
pretty
in there.
sure.
So
I
I'm
got some
sure-
down there, you had me order, and I believe I do.
Then you can
I
play
wondered
around
if we
with
had
it.
them in case, because they must be getting ready to put up
Yep.
road signs.
Yeah, I think I got 3 down there.
Should be more than, I forget how many we ordered.
Oh, I don't know.
Because we ordered some for the people too.
Yes,
We ordered an extra one to give to the families.
we did, we should have.
Let me see what I got down there. I know I got a few down there.
came in.
You know, I don't think we ever gave the Wilsons a sign, did we?
One of the roads is Wilson, right?
Oh, that's off of
Oh,
Pickpocket,
you still
right?
have, you have that one down there? So
I
we'll have
ha-
Carol Wilson come in at this
I
time.
believe I have
after
Wilson's
Paxton
down
Reed.
there.
Oh, good, oh, good.
I do.
Go for it.
One thing I wanted to find out, have you guys heard anything about, from Steve Cummings on the Row Road West?
He said that it was not approved as an emergency, application, so he was working on preparing the application for submission to DES, and he needed conservation to sign off on that.
Okay.
So once it's submitted, then it'll be 60 days max for them to approve it.
We meet tomorrow night, so is he bringing it forward to
I'll
us?
call Steve and see.
Because we meet tomorrow night.
Do we know what that request is?
What request?
Well, I think it's DES's.
The bridge to replace the culvert on Railroad.
I know the last time I talked to Steve, they were debating, there's some big thing that the DES was, down there, is putting culverts in or a box culvert.
Well,
And with the
that's gonna come back to haunt us one of these days.
Right, well, when I was talking to Steve on that, cause I told him, I said, well, if we come back with a box culvert, I don't believe we got the money. We're gonna have to wait the town meeting to get the money up, cause those are over $100,000.
Right. But if we use the culvert, that's.
But I don't
precast
think they're going,
concrete, right?
DES isn't gonna let us use that culvert. That's still bicking back and
Remember the
forth.
conversation we had a couple months ago?
Yeah, but that would be a lot less expensive to use.
Yeah, but
I know.
it's because of the, how many acres of land that's down there and how much water that's down there. And plus it's going into the Exeter River, and then also there's two entrances to that now, to that development down there.
Well, currently there's
So
only
that's what
one.
DES is looking at, so that's why they're leaning toward a
Robinson
box
is the
culvert.
only way in.
No, well, currently, yes.
Yeah, right.
So, okay, if you haven't heard anything, we'll wait and see what happens. And the other thing is, I got a call today from a subject that lives down to PBD Drive. He was concerned of some of the cracks that are down there, the roads, some of the cracks that the road is down there. He wanted to know if I was gonna do any crack sealing. Well, I've been kinda holding off, the money that I have for right now that I'm saving, cause it was voted on, I think it was $121,000, I think it was, that I have for finishing the roads, but we're waiting to see what happens with Railroad West, cause that's the money we're gonna use to finish that road down there. If it takes all that money to do there, I don't know. And, you know, some of the cracks down there are wide, they are wide, so I didn't know if you got, what you guys
Well,
want.
we have been doing crack sealing every year. so
Every year.
You should have some money
I
in your
did,
budget.
I can use some of the money out of, my road construction. I think, I can give, the guy that I usually have, there's two guys, one in Fremont and there's one down on Pine Road there. It's Lisa's son down in the store anyway. He's one of them that we've had do it. Does a good job, they do a good job. I can get an estimate from two of them, have them go down there and see what, if you want.
How much did we spend last year on that? Do you remember? Ballpark it, just 30,000 or something?
I wanna say it was something like
I
that.
thought it was 30,000, maybe.
For crack sealing?
Crack sealing, yeah. All around.
No, it wasn't that much, I don't think. It wasn't that high.
Was it?
No, but I can have them both go down there and just give me an estimate of what it would cost to do it, then we'll go from there if you want.
I think we ought to do that, because if we don't do it, we're gonna open ourselves up to a much bigger problem down the road. So
Okay, I'll give them a call and have them go down there and give me an estimate, and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah, any roads, we need to at least crack seal a few roads a year
Yeah.
to keep up with.
Okay.
So we're not losing, cause it's much cheaper to seal the cracks than it is to reclaim and pave.
Okay, I'll
And as far as Railroad West goes, we have the Bridge Capital Reserve Fund. If we have to tap that to complete that job, we will.
Oh, okay.
Well, we need to worry about Mill
What
Road
about
too.
Mill Road?
We've been worried about
Mill
Mill Road
Road.
for 5 years.
Yes, it's been a while.
Yeah, but you know,
I go over it
The more
every
you
day.
worry, the longer it takes.
okay,
And the higher the price becomes.
Yep.
yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything else, Phil?
No, I just wanted to know about, we had the road signs, because I was noticing how it's, you know, people are moving in over there, and it's,
Surprised we don't make the contract to put those in.
I think they do pay for the first sign, but then I think Wayne ordered extra ones to give to the families.
But I mean, they should put, the contractor should put them in, but I
As
don't
soon as
know.
someone lives there.
Bruce left, so I don't know.
So are we gonna send a letter to the department heads saying, based on the conversations we had with budget committee, we're expecting?
when do we have a department head?
Well, aren't we having the department heads to come in to talk to us?
On the
every week?
24th.
On the 24th.
So
But that's,
is there a need for us to even tell them that, or, I mean, can we tell them that, or do we need to send them a letter?
Well, they don't have
that's
their
still
forms.
2 weeks.
They don't have their forms to do the budget.
No, but what I'm saying, the question I'm asking is if we want them to come in with a budget on the 1st of October, don't we need to give them some kind
Yes.
of advance notice that this is what our expectation is?
Yes.
And I don't know if we have the same expectation as the budget committee either,
I don't either.
so maybe we should discuss that.
I don't.
Can I have a week to think about it? Cause
Yeah, I'm thinking
realistically,
next week we ought to
I
come up with a
prepare
consensus.
60% of the budgets.
Yeah, but.
So I don't know that I can do all of them by October 1, cause that's like
No,
6 weeks
no,
earlier than
the
normal.
question I'm asking is that we need to come to a consensus whether we wanna even go forward with a zero increase. I don't know. I looked at the cost of living documents that we have, and we're looking at 1.6 to 2%, you know, that's what the projection is, so I don't know if we could live with zero, but,
I would prefer telling them in person on the 24th.
well, we got some time to think about it, so.
Yeah,
I mean, it
we
could-
have till next week. Everybody, can you email out a current budget to everybody, and then everybody can look at the current budget? You know, we know there's some budgets that have extra room. I mean, we've spent, I don't know, 30,000-40,000 extra in highway this year, so his budget probably can be reduced by 30 or 40,000. But tractors and everything else that,
Yeah, that's right.
But he's also been down
He's,
a
two
full-timer
employees.
since
yeah,
March.
he's been
Right.
down.
right, but I don't think any of the money that he's
Earmarked for
scoundreled
that
came
person.
from salaries, it came from other
Other
places.
places.
I'm wondering, Karen, if you can send that budget to, sorry,
I love
Name and
it.
address,
Do it
please.
again, do it again.
Bill's been waiting for that for a long time.
Hold on, you didn't get recognized, I don't think. Based on just looking at John's, report to us, it seems like, and maybe I'm just being optimistic, but we seem to be in pretty good shape. We got almost $3.5 million.
We also have to pay the school 3 more times and the county.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh.
Just that alone is like $3 million
Oh,
for
that's-
those
oh.
4 bills.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me back away from what I was gonna say,
Yeah,
never
back
mind.
away, never mind.
mine was very quick.
Name
Liz Faria,
and address.
South Road. Wondering if you can forward that budget onto Keith as well, so he can forward it to us for, for first glance, the current budget, would that be okay?
I have no problem with that.
I'll share it with you and you can
It's
share
okay,
it.
but I mean, just for the budget committee to see ahead of time too.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else?
Oh.
I have an adjournment
Any
motion.
public comment? I'll take a motion.
I made it.
Do I-
Second.
All in favor?
Good night.
Aye.
Did anybody notice the garden?
What's that?
I did notice the garden.
You did?
I did not.
Oh, what did?
Your assistant called me on Friday. I had to come over and give him
Thank
some
you all very much.
WD-4.
Have a good night.
This is clippers that
I'll be in touch.
Um,